Namaste, all of you. Welcome to this new session. We have been dealing with pranayam. Uh, Last time I said that there is a lot of mockery of pranayam going on today. Basically, it is shwasayam that is taught, that is practiced, and it is called pranayam. There is no logic in considering Shwasayam as pranayam or pranayam as shwasayam. Then greater mockery comes in so-called nasal breathing, or what is called as digital breathing, which is done by way of Anduloma Pratiloma, Surya Vedan, Chandra Vedan, Nadi Shodhan, where it is suggested that one should be breathing through a particular nadi. Now, whole nostril is not a nadi. Nadis are into nostrils. Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, three nadis are in the nostrils. Now, the mockery is made that the proper mudra for pranayam is not used. Proper mudra of pranayam is, as I said last time, is to not use the index finger and middle finger and only use the ring finger, index finger along with the thumb of the right hand. And then it should be well rounded rather than clipping. You don't have to clip the nose by aggressive fingers. So it should be almost like a delicate ornament to the nose, soft palm, soft fingers, and beautifully curved knuckles. The tips of the fingers are enough to be doing that act of pranayam, rather than the whole upper part of the finger. It's only tips of the fingers should be used, rather than placing, as which is done as a mockery, that people start blocking their whole nostril by straight fingers, sometimes straight thumb, straight finger, etc. And the septum is deviated. We are disfiguring the nose to be doing pranayam. Whereas in classical approach, it is not the case. And we don't need to block the nostril to block the nadi, because when we have cold, our nostrils are blocked. Sometimes one nostril is blocked, sometimes both the nostrils are blocked. However, we don't close the nostril as such. Nostril hole is open, nasal hole is open, but nostrils are blocked. That means what? The nadis are blocked. The holes of the nose are open with same kind of diameter, they are open. Yet nostrils are blocked. So when in cold, nostrils are blocked with not the nasal holes blocked. What is the point in blocking the nasal holes for blocking the nadis? So this simple logical question doesn't occur. So quite aggressively it is done. Deviating the sternum, tilting the nose, making the nose crooked. The pranayam is done. And moreover, it is shwasayam. Therefore, we need to have that consideration when it comes to using the fingers on the nose. Why it has to be used, how it has to be used. However, that pranayam is not beginner's pranayam. It doesn't really commence there. Today it is commencing because of the consumerism and quackery. Pranayam means Aduloma Pratiloma, Nadi Shodhan, Surya Bhedan, Chandra Bhedan. But it is not there where the pranayam starts. Pranayam starts elsewhere. So in classical approach, that is considered as to where the pranayam should start. And basically it has to be pranayam. But however, when we are learning, The learning is on the plane of breath. So Shwasayam is not to be alienated by classical practitioners. The Shwasayam comes in the beginning to become familiar with the breath, familiar with the functions of the breath, because that is the vehicle. But ultimately it has to be pranayam. So Shwasayam is not as opposed to pranayam. Shwasayam is not being rejected in what is being conveyed to you now. But the point is, Shwasayam is so important to learn, to commence. Where to commence on breath activities. Shwasayam is so important. Like earlier days, children learned fashioning alphabets on a slate. It's not that lifelong education was going on slates. But however, the learning started with slate. Similarly, it is like slate. Shwasayam is like slate, and that's a wonderful condition, wonderful concept to learn certain practices with regards to breath, with regards to prana, with regards to pranayam. So, Shwasayam is not being rejected, not being refuted, not being looked down upon. That's very important instrument to be learning. So it all pranayam starts with Shwasayam, but Shwasayam itself is not pranayam. This is what I am trying to convey to you. Anyway, where does this start then? So as I said last time, this should commence in very asanas. The breath has enormous potentials. Breath has enormous potentials within our embodiment. The breath comes as a body component and breath comes as a mind component. Breath is not totally an independent thing as it might be construed so. Because body, mind, breath, this classification has been mentioned. So it is no point in having a watertight compartment that there is body matter, there is mind matter, there is breath matter. Because we are living by breath. So breath comes in all physical functions, physical manifestations, physical activities. Breath comes in all mental manifestations, mental activities and mental functions. We need to develop some education about it. We should be familiar with this concept that the breath is a factor which is there in any human function, human activity, human manifestation. Because we don't live without a breath. The breath is an incessant process. Breathing is an incessant process. And all our functions are based on breath. This is what is important. It's not just because we breathe, we live. And because we live, we do and manifest and function. The breath is integral aspect to all functions of body and mind. So the breathing should not be construed as some kind of energy movement which keeps us animate. Breathing is going on, therefore the body functions. Breathing is going on, therefore mind functions. Breathing is going on, therefore the body manifests. Breathing is going on, therefore the mind is manifesting. It's not like that. The breath is a very vital ingredient in our physical mental activities, physical mental functions, physical mental manifestations. It's not like electricity. Electricity flows and therefore apparatus works. Various apparatuses will be working by electricity supply to it. It should not be construed that way, that breath is something like that kind of energy which is there for electrical apparatuses. If there is electricity, apparatuses will work. So it's not that way that the breath is there and therefore we as animate beings or human beings function and work. It is very much integral to all acts, actions, functions, roles, purposes, manifestations. That is why we need to get introduced to breath as an entity, as students of yoga. And we have to personify the breath, just as we try to understand what is body, why body, how body, or similarly about the mind. So in body sciences, in anatomy, physiology, we try to study the mind, body. In psychology, neurology, we try to study the mind. What is mind? How is the mind? Etc. etc. But there is no study with regards to breath. So that's a kind of shortcoming in our study of human embodiment. We have anatomy, physiology to understand body. We have psychology to understand the mind. But however, there is no subject like breathology, which is so important. And in yoga, this subject is there. We have to study breathology. See, so we will come to accord a persona to the breath and breathing, which will be so interesting. See, we want to do all actions by our body, by our senses, by our mind. Tell me an activity which is not done by body or senses or mind. And these are agencies, and these are also forms of actions. There are physical activities of the body, there are sensory activities of the senses, and there are mental activities of the mind. And perhaps this is the entire what you call circumference of our activity. Now when it comes to body, physical activities, the body has so many delimitations. Being human being, body has limitations. What many subhumans can do, man cannot do. The birds can fly, man cannot fly. Animals can take long jumps and high jumps and will come down safely. This is not the case of man. If he falls from a height, he will break his body. So there are so many limitations to human body. What the ant does, man cannot do. You see, ant can carry weight 3 times its body weight, and it can climb up a vertical trunk of a tree. Now, if you are given the weight equal to your weight and you are asked to climb up a tree, understand your plight? It can carry 3 times its weight in its mouth and climb up a vertical stump, vertical trunk of a tree. We don't appreciate these marvels. The point is, there are body limitations. Because of our body, we have limitations. Body has weight, and body has such a matter that it cannot take so many risks or cannot have so many ventures. Lots of limitations on body. Then the body has genetic background. Therefore, furthermore, few more delimitations come. Genetic background, genealogical background, ancestral background, ethnic background, so and then karmic background. Because of karma, the body has limitations. Apart from other shackles, the mind similarly has so many shackles, including karmic shackles. And therefore, a mind cannot be doing so many things. Although the mind might be aiming at doing certain things, you will find that it is not perfectly right to say where there is will, there is a way. Because there are delimitations in mind, delimitations in body, incapacities in body, incapacities in the mind. Therefore, merely having will to be doing something doesn't mean that you will accomplish. So that's a fact, and it should be accepted. Basically, there are karmic gravities working on our body and mind. We can't escape it. Karmic gravities cannot be escaped. Therefore, yoga embarks upon using the breath. Breath doesn't have all those delimitations of the class which body and mind have it. Basically, there is no karmic background, there is no karmic gravity. The mind is conditioned by karma, the body is conditioned by karma. My breath is not conditioned by karma. It is a force which comes from outside us, from the nature, and goes back to nature. And then it is new breath every 4 seconds. So it is ever fresh force. Our mind is not ever fresh and our body is not ever fresh. Our body has an age and mind has an age. A person who is 80, 90, 100 years of age, body has that age and mind has that age, maybe a little more or less, but the breath has no age whatsoever. Age has no age whatsoever. You might be 80 years of age, so your body will be 80 plus or 80 minus something, or your mind will be 80 plus or 80 minus something. But that's not the case of the breath, because breath is ever new force. Every 4 seconds we get a new breath, and our breath goes out every 4 seconds. It is immersed into the atmosphere every 4 seconds, and that's why it is constantly a new force. It is always a new force. Our minds are not always new, our body is not always new, but the breath is new, always new. Although body matter is being changed over a period of time. They say we flake the skin completely. We flake the skin in about some years, 7 years or so. So the body matter is renewable, mind matter is renewable. So it is renewable, it is not new. It is not all the time new. The breath is all the time new. That is the difference. Do you follow? In our metabolism, body matter is changed. We don't have the same muscle, same bone, day after day, month after month, year after year. It is renewable matter. It is renewed in different cycles. It is renewed in different cycles. But the breath is ever new. Most importantly, breath has no karmic background, no karmic gravity. That's why yoga uses the breath so importantly. They take recourse to breath. Yoga technology take recourse to breath for this. One of the most major reasons that it doesn't have karmic background, it doesn't have ethnicity, it doesn't have ancestry, it doesn't have genealogical genetic background. Whereas that is the case of the body and mind. You can't be totally different from your ancestry, from your genetic and genetic pattern, altogether different from your ancestors is not possible. Or genealogical transmissions are there. But that's not the case of the breath. That is not the case of the breath. Breath comes from unique resource and goes back to it. And that is why in yoga, breath is used. So there are so many perspectives and dimensions of the breath. The breath is like a newborn child every time. When a newborn child comes in the house, all discords in the house are set aside. There might be discord in family members, but when a child is born, the whole atmosphere in the family changes. There comes concord. The family members come together. They rejoice together. Otherwise, they don't. Sometimes they don't come together even. But when a child is born, they rejoice together. So this is taking birth every 4 seconds. So the body mind matters. They have a different condition because of this incoming force every 4 seconds, and then disposition of the stale breath every 4 seconds. We don't build up waste in the body. This in breath and out breath, inward movement and outward movement of breath keeps the body mind matter ever fresh in to some extent. Then there is corresponding breath to all physical and mental activities. There is corresponding breath to every physical mental function, physical mental manifestation. Now this needs to be testified in lab of our embodiment, how the breath works for various physical activities, for various mental activities, for restful condition of body and mind to vibrant condition of body and mind, there is corresponding breath. These are two poles, placid conditions, steady conditions, quiet conditions, restful conditions in body and mind on one hand, and on the other hand vibrant conditions. So there is corresponding breath behind every kind of manifestation, every kind of act, function, activity. So asanas are the laboratory to study this out. In asanas, as postures, we carry out different body activities. Bending forward, bending backward, bending laterally, turning laterally, different contortions of the body, to the whole range which is given by nature. There are some critics who say that these are contortions and not necessary. If that is the case, why nature has given us the range of movement of our body? The limbs are moving in a range. That means you can really lift, if you are squatting, you can sit and take one leg up and put it behind the neck. Now this range is provided by the nature. You might call it contortion, Ekapada Shirshasana, where you sit with both the legs straight and bend your one leg and take that leg behind the head, over the neck, you keep it over the neck. So for someone it looks like a body contortion. But why the nature has given that range of movement? When we are walking, we are not using the whole range of our hip socket movement. If the man was supposed to just sit and stand and walk, then so much range of movement in knee joint, hip joint was not necessary. Why so much of movement is provided in the joints? So asanas in one sense are using that range to fullest possible extent. If you don't use it, slowly disuse will come in, and you know what happens if the disuse is there and getting built up? We lose the movement altogether. We are able to spread our legs to nearly 180 degrees in Hanumanasana or Samakonasana to about 160, 170 degrees, or perhaps closer to 180 degrees. Now why the range has been provided by the nature? So asanas as body postures explore this range of movement available to all the joints, all the limbs, the body itself. The body is an enormous range of movement. Our neck can turn from one side to the other side. Such a range of movement is given. Now, if we are not going to use it, then this disuse will come up. So they should not be looked at contortions. Posture should not be looked at as contortions. The body is given range of movement to bend forward, bend backward, bend laterally, turn laterally, etc., etc. Get even inverted. And that's why we will be working on the not only on blood circulation but breath circulation. So this concept should be conceived, construed and explored. Like we want the whole body to have good blood circulation. Why not breath circulation also? It's the breath is otherwise considered as a respiratory movement for respiratory organs and respiratory system. But then it has such a range of movement and it has such potentials that the breathing can be holistic to entire body and holistic to entire mind as well. So in asanas, we are given this laboratory to explore it, observatory to observe it, an academy to study it. Therefore, in asanas, we must have some amount of practice dedicated to breath studies, functions of the breath. If you want to bend a part of the body, how do you use the breath for that? If you want to rotate a part of the body, how do you use the breath? If you want to bend backwards, how do you use the breath? There is corresponding breath for every body activity, body action, body position, body condition. If you want the body to be tough, hard, the breath will come there as a hardener. If you want the body to be soft, flexible, the breath will come there to make your body flexible. So it will mobilize the body, it will freeze the body, it will tighten the body, it will harden the body, it will soften the body. So the breath comes as a hardener, as a softener. Now in asanas we know we have to stretch our body, so it comes as a straightener. So straightener breath, stretchener breath. We want to stretch the body. So stretchener breath. We want to bend the body. So the bender breath. We want to bend the body in various possible directions. So there is a bender breath. So there is a straightener breath, there is a stretchener breath, there is a bender breath, there is a turner breath, there is hardener breath, there is softener breath. So this breath as a fluid needs to be explored through asanas as to how the breath comes for our various physical body movements, how the breath comes for different mental states. In asanas, we want to traverse in the mental realm. We want to go through different states of mind. We want sometimes the mind to be vibrant, sometimes the mind to be electrified, and sometimes we want the mind to be restful, quietened, sublimated, ennobled. So tranquiled to ennobled, sublimated mind. So we want so many manifestations in the mind as well and body as well. How the breath comes for every state of body and condition of body, how the breath comes for every state of mind and condition of mind. This needs to be explored through practice of asanas. Asanas provide wonderful academy, wonderful field to really understand how the breath can work, in how many ways the breath can work. The breath is really a multitasker agency within us. And not only that, with association with the breath, the mind also becomes that much a multitasking agency. The body too also becomes a multitasking agency. So it is such an association for body and mind with the breath that they will go past their usual activities and functions. So this needs to be explored in asanas. Then in asanas we have to see how I just now referred to holistic breath. Now let's try to have a few examples here, practical examples here. So all of you settle down to a position such as Supta Virasana or Supta Baddha Konasana, which is perhaps possible to all of you. Settle down with a bolster, lie down in Supta Virasana, lie down in Baddha Konasana, one of these positions. So now being settled in this position, after you get settled in the position, now let's try to understand how much and in what way the breath can work for pelvic, umbilical region, abdominal region, the abdomen, the belly region, from below the rib cage to the pit of the trunk. Let's see how much the breath can function there, how much it can carry out abdominal operations by your in-breath, by the out-breath, by the volume of out-breath, by the volume of in-breath, by the velocity of out-breath, by the velocity of in-breath, by the combination of velocity and volume of the in-breath and out-breath. How much abdominal activities can be accentuated and actualized. It's a tremendous agency to work on belly region. So in Supta Virasana, rather than just settling to normal breathing, start doing hyper-normal breathing in terms of its volume. Exhale more and more and more with reference to belly. So find out how many operations it can carry out. Then similarly, exhalations with reference to belly. See how many operations exhalations can carry out. So, uh, then the Uddiyanic mannerism, which is advocated by yoga technology, that you must inhale, Uddyanically inhale, Uddyanically exhale, induct the Uddiyanic mannerisms to abdomen, Uddiyanic mannerisms to abdomen in both inhalation and exhalations. In simple words, Uddiyanic mannerisms means deflate the abdomen. When you are inhaling, see that the belly goes down towards the back. So deflated conditions, contracted and sucked conditions, rather than inflation of the abdomen, bloating the abdomen. Like in case of chest, with the inhalation we can inflate the chest. We can bloat and puff the chest. But in belly we are not supposed to do. This is according to yoga psychology, yoga technology. So let's see how inhalation in hypernormal volume of breath, how we are able to carry out different operations on the belly, on the abdomen by Uddiyanic inhalation to the extent possible. Once you can't be doing it, you can let go and just do the inhalation as it comes. So also in exhalation, Uddiyanic mannerisms to exhalations. So it will carry out myriad functions, myriad operations on the abdomen. We know these gastroenterological operations in surgery. There are n number of gastroenterological operations. Now here you can carry out gastroenterological yogic operations by in-breath and out-breath, by abdominal confinement in your breathing. See how many processes are available. Now when you make the breath little high velocity, when it starts working like as a pneumatic force, so find out how it can carry out agricultural act of plowing, scraping, combing. So these are the operations. So imagine that you are combing your abdomen by in-breath. You are combing your abdomen by out-breath. You are scraping your abdomen by in-breath. You are scraping your abdomen by out-breath. So scraping, combing, plowing, like the field is plown and we loosen the soil of the field for it to be farming worthy. If we don't loosen the soil, it is not farming worthy. So we first loosen the soil for it to be farming worthy. So loosen the field of your abdomen by in-breath and out-breath. The breath will find seepage. The abdomen becomes seepage worthy for your breath. The breath will seep through well, like water seeps through when the ground is loosened, rather than compressed condition of the sand. When we loosen it, the water seeps through easily. Air seeps through easily. The sun rays also penetrate easily. The temperature penetrates easily. If it is hard surface, it doesn't penetrate so easily. So we have to plow the abdomen, comb the abdomen, See what are the abdominal processes. Now if you go for a rarefied breath, so find out rarefied breath, how gentle operations will take place on the abdomen. Waft, delicate, tender operations on the abdomen. Fine and superfine operations in the abdomen. So, velocity, volume variations and the combination thereof, then there are graphic modes of the breath. So, in various asanas, you are taught various graphic modes of the breath. See, if I tell you to breathe across from right corner of the waist to left corner of the chest, can you do that? You can't do it. But if you are in a twisting position, rotational position, you will do that. So the breath will go oblique. It will go across from one corner to opposite corner. One corner at the bottom to opposite corner at the top, and from one corner at the top to opposite corner on the bottom exhalatively. It is because of the posture, like Ardha Matsyendrasana. When you try to read the breath, it will go obliquely. Now it is going vertically up and down if you are sitting upright or lying down up, straight. It goes up and down. So there are so many aerodynamics of breath. Different asanas give you different aerodynamics of breath. They encourage different aerodynamics of breath. So there are basic graphic modes of the breath which you will experience in asanas, and that should be explored. There are basic graphic modes such as cylindrical breath, columnar breath. So visualize these forms. These are configurations of the breath. Columnar breath, cylindrical breath, obverse conical breath, and then reverse conical breath. Like, obverse triangle, reverse triangle. Obverse cone, reverse cone. The breath can take place from anterior to posterior and posterior to anterior. You can exhale from anterior to posterior. You can inhale from posterior to anterior. So all these graphic modulations in breath take place in various asanas, which goes unnoticed because we are going overboard. We are obsessed with body activities, body positions, and we don't really watch the breath. We are not even experiencing the Tadasana, upright standing position of the breath, and inversion like Shirshasana. The breathing process is totally different between upside down position and downside up position. We don't take cognizance of this. We only see the body downside, down to up position or up to down position, upright position and inverted position. We don't look at the breath, how the breath takes place. See, when you are lying down, now you are lying down in Supta Virasana. If you lie down in a prone position, you breathe differently. You will see how much the back is mobilized if you are lying down in a prone position. If you are on a right side or left side, it's a different kind of breathing. So when we lie on a side, either right or left, we breathe differently. From prone to supine, we breathe differently. Now this is all matter of study for you, student of yoga. Anyway, now Supta Virasana or Baddha Konasana you did in the abdomen. Now do it for the chest and see how much functions it can carry out in the chest. How it can work on the field of the chest. Inhalations, exhalations, volume, normal to hypernormal, velocity from normal to hypernormal, from normal to hyponormal. You will carry out different operations on the thoracic. In different asanas, you have different operations of the thoracic. Imagine how would you breathe in chest when you are in Paschimottanasana? How would you breathe in chest when you are in Dhanurasana or Urdhva Dhanurasana or what is called Chakrasana? So the chest breathing will be different in a back arch position and in a front bending position, in lateral turning position. So this is all matter of survey required to qualify ourselves and empower ourselves to become students of pranayama. In asanas, we have to learn the breath dimension. We want to do an asana, we want to do a good asana, we want to do a proper asana, also intensity of an asana, also duration of asana. We want to be able to stay in an asana for a longer duration. We are not happy by doing all asanas for a couple of microseconds. We want to be staying in an asana. So there are different time scales for different asanas. Somewhere in an asana we might stay for 10 minutes, somewhere we will be staying for a minute or two, and that is more than enough. Paripurna Matsyendrasana for a minute or two is almost equal to staying 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes in Shirshasana. So there are different time scales for asanas. Therefore, the breath works different in different time scales. So all this field work is so important to be student of pranayam in classical approach. Now for a while do the breathing in the head region, face region, in your Baddha Konasana or Supta Virasana. See how the breathing is taking place for face, how the breathing is taking place for head, brain, face, skull, cortices, lobes, even the senses. Breath taking place for eyes. So there is something called ophthalmological breath and breathing, which a student of yoga should be aware of, familiar with. So understand ophthalmological asana, breathing with reference to eyeballs, eye parts, eyebrows, eyelids, eyeballs, pupils, cornea, retina, etc. Ophthalmic nerve, ophthalmic nerves and optic nerve. So see how the breath takes place for cells of the eyes, tissues of the eyes, body matter of the eyes, mind awareness of the eyes. The breath is a great conditioner to eyes. Ophthalmology has not studied the breath perspective and dimension about the eyes. But so the breath can flow in the eyes, around the eyes, it can be seeping in the eyes. See how the exhalation can seep, how the inhalation can seep, how the exhalation will flow in the eyes, how the inhalation will flow in the eyes. So eye parts, nose part, mouth part, ear part. So even in the mouth part, it's not breathing through the mouth, but how the breath works on the mouth, lips, teeth, jaw, palate, throat, tongue. How your exhalations can work on the mouth parts. It's not exhaling and inhaling through the mouth, but how the exhalation works on the mouth parts must be something with which a student of yoga is familiar with, is knowledgeable about it, literate about it. We know that we breathe through the nose, but how the breath works on the nose is hardly considered. We breathe through the nose, but how the breath will interact with the nose, what functions it will work on the nasal part. There are nasal parts such as membrane, septum, gate of the nose, floor of the nostrils, roof of the nostrils, cavity of the nostrils. So we have not carried out this field work and survey at all, which is implied in a classical approach to take up pranayam. So the breath can work on senses. So head, brain, face, skull, senses, lobes and cortices. So find out how it might work and how it works. Exhalations and inhalations in different qualities, in different densities, different velocities. Now, head and brain region is such a region that you can't be doing a pneumatic inhalation without a negative effect. You can do a high velocity inhalation in the lungs, high velocity inhalations in your abdomen, high velocity inhalations in your back. You can't do in the head that way. It will be atrocious. So you will be familiar with how the breath moves in this location, how the breath moves in throat location, chest location, diaphragm location, abdomen location, umbilical location, pelvic location and back location, lower back location, upper back location. These are different terrains for the breath to function, to move. So this education must be taken to be students of pranayam in a classical sense. Otherwise, with no regard to that, we just embark upon some kind of pranayam which has come out of quackery. Pranayam means they embark upon Ujjayi pranayam to Brahmari pranayam to Nadi Shodhan Surya Bhedan Chandra Bhedan pranayam to Anulom Pratilom pranayam to Bhastrika pranayam. We are dealing with the breath. We are not considering how does it work on a location, on different locations. Now it is wrongly construed that Bhastrika only works for head region and you flush out your brain. You feel really light after a couple of rounds of Bhastrika. You feel lightness in the head, but we don't bother what does it do in the belly. What does it do to the chest, and what does it do to the back? Should we not consider? So that's because of rampant quackery in yoga in last about 100 years, more than 150 years. There has been a lot of quackery, and on a progressive trend. It was not so much 50 years, 60 years, 100 years back. But it has become rampant these days, quackery. So we must take, it's a word of caution here. That's why the approach, classical approach, is so important, so that we will set aside any quackery that can set in. The point is, we have to learn how the breath works. Now we can all sit in Virasana for a while and find out how much the breath can work for your back. How much the breath can work on your back, how much the breath can work for your back, in your back, on your spine. See, the spine is also a breathing organ, so identify once at least that you sit in Swastikasana, you sit in Virasana, and you identify your spine is a breathing organ, your back is a breathing organ, lower back is a breathing organ, mid back is a breathing organ, upper back is a breathing organ. See, lower back is a fossilized region. The sacroiliac spine is a fused body of the spine, we know this. But see, why not create some kind of seepage of the breath so that we defossilize the lower back, defossilize the waist and below. See how much you can defossilize buttock region, hip region. The anatomy doesn't tell you that your buttock and hips are breathing organs. But now understand, sit in any sitting position, how much you can explore that your buttocks and hips, perineum, are breathing organs. How much they can participate in breathing, how much they can be addressed by the breathing, how much they can address the breath and breathing. So, all these asanas once for a while should be learnt in the dimension of breath and breathing. All the asanas that you try. So that's why I said at least 5-10% of your asana, the timing that you allocate for an asana, 5-10% of it, or number of rounds you do an asana. See that some rounds of it are reserved to carry out studies of the breath, on the breath, by the breath, with the breath, for the breath. That's the breath dimension of all asanas. This must be highlighted. This must be sufficiently pursued to get qualified to be doing pranayama. So, I want to conclude this session by giving this kind of suggestion that every asana that you do, and you do the asanas with various purposes. See, sometimes you might do an asana because you are dull in body and mind. Sometimes you might do the same asana that because you are hyperactive in body and mind, you are super mercurial in body and mind. Say for instance, Shirshasana can be done to electrify the mind, which is inert. Or the mind might be super mercurial and you want to quieten the mind and do Shirshasana. So there are so many psychodynamics to be doing any asana and every asana. Become aware of this. Then in every psychodynamics of asana, how the breath comes in different manifestations, different avatars. It's a very flexible force. It's a highly resourceful force, resourceful agency. It comes handy for every condition, negative condition to be overcome and positive condition to be instated and augmented, escalated. So we will be doing asanas in different states of our body and mind. How every time the breath comes in is a must study to be students of pranayama formally and in classical approach. So every time when you are embarking upon asanas, make it a point on that day, you dedicate some time and energy time allocation, energy allocation for reading the breath, participation, breath involvement, breath addressals, breath addressing, breath as an instrument, breath as benefactor, breath as beneficiary. So this study is so important to embark upon classical pranayam. So asanas teach you some fundamentals of pranayam. Breath usages, breath application, breath processes, breath handling, breath application. So this education is so important. So the formal commencement of pranayam is not getting onto pranayam straight away, which is a quackery process. Because this how today, it's a pranayam session, so teacher will tell you to do some pranayam, Ujjayi or Kapalbhati or Brahmari or Surya Vedan, Chandra Vedan, Anulom, Pratilom, etc. This is not classical approach. Let's get inducted to this versatile agency of breath in asanas which are done with different functions. Some asanas are inhalative asanas, some asanas are exhalative asanas, some asanas are dynamic asanas, some asanas are static asanas, some asanas are awakening asanas to body matter, some asanas are restful to body matter. So in asanas we have this enormous scheme for body, mind, matters. Let's take this opportunity to understand how the breath works in such a versatile manner. It's really a multitasker. And we have not identified that. We need to identify the potentials of the breath. But unless you have identified the potentials of the breath, it is not really sound reason to be regulating it. If you want to regulate me, try to know my potentials, try to know my traits, try to know where I am good, try to know where I am not so good, try to know where I am so bad. Then only you can be really my regulator. So you will tell me, don't do this, you are not good here. Do this, you are good here. That means you must know my potentials, you must have mapping of my potentials, you must have data of my potentials. You must have literacy about my potentials. Then only you can be regulating me. Otherwise, it is a tyranny. Without considering what my potentials and abilities and capacities and capabilities, you can just be a dictator on me. That's not regulation. So let's not be dictators on the breath. Inhale on the right, exhale on the right, etc. Dictate. Let's know their potentials. Let's know their inclinations. Let us know their resource. So lots of studies are required to take place in the realm of breath and breathing, and asana is wonderful scheme, wonderful academy, wonderful field. So let's avail of it. So this is one of the very fundamental lessons in pranayam. So with that, this session ends. Today you did Supta Virasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. Try to do some other pose and steady. Janu Shishasana and breath and breathing. Marichasana and breath and breathing. Dhanurasana and breath and breathing. Tadasana, Utkatasana, Malasana, breath and breathing. See, Tadasana upright. Then semi-sitting position you come to Utkatasana. And then you go to Malasana. Everywhere the breath is changing. We are just getting obsessionally carried away by body. The body position, body condition, body profile, body state. We must come out of this Maya, gravity of Maya. The more you are trying to watch your breath, the more you will be away from Maya. That's the magic. The more you are getting entangled with body and mind, more you will enter the Maya atmosphere. You will be caught in Maya atmosphere. The more you watch your breath and breathing, its functions, its roles, its acts, its manifestation, you will be relieved from the grip of Maya, which is so important in Adhyatma, or what is called spirituality. Anyway, namaskar. Thank you very much.